and welcome to the APMA podcast. I'm back with another episode for you, lovely, lovely people. Thanks for tuning in from wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And remember, I have said it before, if you are driving, concentrate on the driving first and listen to this at the same time. Hopefully, I'll shorten that journey for you or make it feel like it's passing a bit quicker. Obviously, as always, even in the autumn, going into the winter, it's important to stay hydrated. It's amazing that I'm not sponsored by a water company right now. Um, the amount of times I say it, hit us up. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing well. Gonna get into an episode about funny stories at work. I've got a few myself to talk about. Um, I'm doing this episode on the Wednesday night, late on the Wednesday night, because I've got quite a busy day on Thursday. Hence why neither Dan or Jordan is here either. Because it's kind of very late to invite them on, and it was also short notice as myself not being available for the Thursday. So that's on me. But I'm giving you an episode. All right. If you don't like it, you're probably not listening. Put it that way. Anyway, so we're going to be getting into the stories. So I've got a few to tell myself, like I've just said. I think there's a couple I haven't told on the podcast before. I know we've done a few jobs episodes that have kind of tallied up with talking about embarrassing or funny stories. Obviously, the argument I had with the trainee manager or the assistant manager to be back in the day at Hughes, that was classic. That'll go down. I actually did several months ago. Someone who works at Hughes, who I used to work with, said they stumbled back on that episode, and it just makes them laugh every time because they all knew who I was talking about. They all knew who I was talking about, and some of them weren't even there on the day. So I feel like that's vindication for my point. If you knew and you don't know who I'm talking about, I can't even remember what episode it is, but I think it's the first jobs episode we did. I think way, way, way back. You know, you're looking at what's this now, the 193rd episode? Yep, 193 episodes. I'm going to be saying it week in, week out because when you start a podcast, you just don't know. You just don't know. But yeah, when we first started, 100, you don't think of the number that you'll get to. But that's it. I'm hosting the 193rd episode of this podcast. So that's it. That's what we're doing. Yeah. So I want everyone who can do or who wants to let us know what your embarrassing or funny stories at work are. There's always some. Like you got the ones that you hear stories secondhand, you got first hand events. You know, there's rumors you hear at work, and then there's just ridiculous situations that you get to in work. I feel like there's such a range of people who watch and listen to this podcast that there's gonna be some stories out there. So if you wanna, you know, email them over to us or even just comment if you're happy for it to be in the ether of the internet, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to kind of have some anonymity still, you can email them to the atmapodcast at gmail.com if you really want to. Not pressuring you, all right? Just if you want. Just if you want. But yeah, funny stories at work. They're always out there. Just let us know, please. So I have got an article to read these from. Thank you to Ranker. That's the website. Ranker, not Wanker. Ranker. Thank you very much for providing these. I don't know why I'm overly thankful of a website. I just feel like I've got to give them a little bit of a shout out because I'm just going to read very poorly um, some stories from there, but I've got a few myself I'd like to tell. One actually, I'll probably start with that. It's embarrassing, but also funny when you think about it. Now, if you don't know what I do for my day job, I work in a mobility shop. So like wheelchairs, mobility scooters, power chairs, all that sort of stuff, dabbling a bit of stair lifts, you know what I mean? So I was talking to this customer. He wanted to buy he wanted to buy a power chair because I think he said he had a stroke or something, or he didn't have use of one arm. So he couldn't use a scooter because you kind of most scooters you need to have two arms fully functional to steer, otherwise you're fucked. With a power chair, you use a little kind of a joystick that you can just control with one hand. Um, you can push it forwards, you'll go forwards, pull it towards you, go backwards, left, right, spin around, all that shit. So you can pick, if you've got one bad hand or bad arm, you just put it on the other side. If both your hands are fucked, there are not really a lot we can do, to be honest, in that situation, other than you buying a very expensive attendant controlled power chair, which is where someone is at the back of the power chair steering you along. I'm sure there is an option somewhere in the world where you can have you can control it from an app or some shit. I don't know. Haven't quite progressed that far yet in terms of me seeing it on a regular occurrence where I work. I will point out I work in a place, well, let's just say it's a bit run down. And by run down, I think it would be giving Gaza a run for its money in terms of, you know, destitution. Very different scenarios, but there we go. Yeah, so he wanted to buy a new power chair to save time. We done the deal. Like he's happy to buy one. So I like the older generation like to shake hands, and you know where this is going. You know, I know you know, I know you know. The older generation love to shake hands. It's just a thing I've experienced a lot in my dealings with the older generation. I had it when I worked at a phone shop for about 2 weeks. Oh, it always seems to be the men as well. Like the women don't want to fucking they barely even want to breathe the same air that you're in. But most of the men who happen to be in that age bracket, they love a good handshake. When you do the deal, they want to feel like they're actually dealing with a real person, not an NPC. So I go to shake his hand, and I don't know why I did this. I mean, it's an instant reaction, but I went to the wrong hand, the one that he can't use, the one he just spent like half an hour explaining to me at great length, um, how he's trying to cope with losing the function of this arm and hand, and I've gone to, do you know what I mean? I've gone to the wrong one. Yeah, no, it's not a great feeling when someone spent half an hour telling you all their woes about the troubles with NHS and all the struggles with their family and trying to adapt to a life where only really function of one arm and one hand. And you've gone to the exact one that he's just spent all that time telling you that's fucked. So it's not great. Something I'm sure in, a couple of days' time. It's a little bit fresh. It was only like the other day. He'll look back on and I think, "Oh, that was funny, wasn't it?" I hope so. I hope so. I found it a bit funny afterwards. I did apologize, say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and shook his other hand. But there was part of me inside was like, "You fucking idiot, he fucking just told you. He just told you. You had to write on the order form what his condition was, so you knew it 3 or 4 seconds before you went for the handshake, and you still fucked it." But anyway, that's a good one to start off with. I feel like that's a common one in terms of, like, you do something embarrassing with someone like a disability or a condition. It's almost like a instant reaction. You just lob your hand out there and hope it's reciprocated. You only realize that you've just basically offended the whole man's existence. He was all right about it, to be fair. He didn't show any, you know, any emotion that would lead me to believe he was incredibly upset. He probably just, sighed and inside just thought, "Yeah, this guy's a twat." But yeah, that is what it is. That happened. So yeah, I got a few of those. Got a few of those. Like I said, there's going to be a couple that I don't think I've talked about before on the podcast. But anyway, let's get into the list, all right? Because there's going to be some more funny stories and maybe embarrassing ones. Because some people love cringe humor, and I'm not, I'm not going to slate it. I do like a bit of cringe humor myself. But anyway, again, website is Ranker, by the way. I don't know if I said that before. Also, that is the brightest white I've ever seen in my entire life. That is illuminating the entire street. So, the title of this one is The Drugs Just Blew Into My Mouth Accidentally. Not, not the only way you can take drugs, but gets job done. So, I used to work at a staffing agency that placed people at manufacturing positions. Everyone had to be drug tested at the office as part of the orientation. If the P cup came back as inconclusive, we'd send a potential hire to a medical lab. They would take another drug test, and the lab would determine if the person was on a prescription or using illegal drugs, and therefore not eligible for hire. So one guy failed his drug test at the lab. He came back to the office claiming that it wasn't his fault. He explained that he was riding in a car and he stuck his head out of the window. Then, when the car passed under a bridge, someone threw a bunch of cocaine off the bridge. It hit him in the face and he accidentally inhaled it. That is one of the most intricate ways of incorporating taking drugs by accident I've ever heard or read. I mean, I'm gonna give points for the absolute asinine and, dare I say it, unbelievable story, but I feel like there's a more logical way. Like, surely getting spiked is the first thing you think about. Like, if you're backed into a corner, they're saying to you, you've got cocaine in your system. What's going on? The first thought in my mind, if you're backed into a corner and you have to lie, well, you didn't have to lie, but if you're still, repressing the thought of actually ever taking the cocaine, surely your first stop is, I've been spiked. Like, the whole thing about throwing your head out of a car, putting your head out of a car window, and then someone drops a bunch of cocaine off the bridge and it happens to smack you in the face. That's fantastic. Lucky or unlucky. Free cocaine, haven't got a job. It's a hard one. That I've never I've never heard of that particular excuse. Normally it's like, oh, I took a drug and someone didn't tell me what it was. I thought it was this, or I thought it was a prescription drug, or I've been spiked, all those sort of usual things, but never going under a bridge simultaneously at the same time someone is dropping drugs off the bridge and then ingesting them through them hitting the face at the same time they're being dropped. Fantastic narrative. Got to give it points for that. But yeah, I highly doubt that one was the truth. Um, I mean, I had to do when I worked. Was it Network Rail? Yeah, when I worked at Network Rail, I had to do drug test. I think I had to do a couple of drug tests actually. Yeah, didn't catch any. Didn't catch any. I don't know what I don't know if I'm like that was a Freudian slip as to say I did take drugs and they didn't catch me. What I meant to say was no drugs showed up in my report. Um, and one of them was a drugs test like this, where you are basically you take a drugs test before you're hired, and then they do like I wouldn't say random ones, but they do like periodic drug tests, especially if you're involved in an incident, because network rail is is a very safety critical job. Pretty much, no matter where you are in network rail, is safety critical. But yeah, so I've done a couple of the pee in the cup scenarios, and I remember the one that I went to. There was I had to go to Norwich to do it. It was like a private, um, basically a private practice, but is the most like it was the most kind of bare bones, like taped together kind of test I've ever seen. So basically, they did like a hearing, an eye test, a drugs test on me. So the hearing test was you hear a series of beeps in your ear. They alternate between left and right, and the frequency. So basically, the pitch of the tone, and you basically just press they have a little button. You go into a soundproof booth. You press the button every time you think you can hear a sound, right? Hear a beep. That's fairly like those are record. That's a fairly, I'd say, tight operation. Like there's not a lot of room for manipulation or cheating the system, right? All of that went out the window for the piss test and the uh eye test. The eye test was laughable, right? It just got a series, like a laminated sheet of letters that get increasingly smaller as they go down. And I don't even remember if this woman measured the distance that she was getting me to read the words from. So, so I was literally just stood there like, I can see all of them. I I shouldn't be able to read the bottom ones, surely. But I read them out. So yeah, my eyesight is okay. I just not very good at reading, you know. I didn't make any mistakes, so I can read individual letters fine. Just join them up. That's where the problem is. And then the piss test. So the piss test was they got me to go into the toilet, right? And I can't remember if I could only piss in the cup or if I had to piss in the toilet, because I remember distinctly you couldn't flush the toilet because they'd basically broken the handle of the toilet. So this was a fully functional toilet, right? With a flush, and they'd broken it so people couldn't flush the results into the sewer. Which part of me is like, why are you getting me to go in a bathroom with a toilet if you don't want me to use the toilet? I'm guessing it doubled up as an actual functional toilet, but for this test, they just made it not functional. I don't know. But yeah, there was some sort of dye in the water of the toilet as well. Like, so they would know if you've poured stuff down it. So I pissed in the cup, gave it to and then she did a quick test there and then. So it didn't go to a lab, I don't think. I think she did a quick test there and then. I think. Can't remember for sure. We're talking like 6 has it been 6 years? No, 7 years ago. 7 years ago we're talking about. So quite a long time ago. But yeah, it was a strange experience. But I didn't claim that I'd had drugs thrown in my face from a bridge. So yeah. Next one. New employee demanded a dog to improve performance. Interesting take. Let's read on. I work I work HR for a call center. Now I read that verbatim. That's actually how it's written. That's not my fault. The entire company has around 500 employees. Maybe 250 of them are in the call center. It's entry level work, making a tiny bit more than minimum wage. The girl started her first week doing really well, and then week two got really weird. She walked into the CEO's office on another floor in the building while he was meeting with someone to demand that he buy her a dog because she thought having a companion would improve her work performance. That was the entirety of her rationale. Edit. Many are asking, no, she did not get the dog. I was in the room with the CEO, so I don't know exactly how he handled it. He is an exceptionally nice human being, so I assume he handled it kindly, though it made its way back to HR pretty quickly, so he definitely told some people about it. My colleague spoke with her about it and was just like, no, that's not a thing. She was fired soon after for unrelated reasons, attendance, I believe. Also, many are questioning if she had some kind of mental disorder. I have no idea. It's that I'm going to give some credit here, right? To go in after 2 weeks or 3 weeks of working at a new company, a company that has 500 employees, so a decent sized company, to go into the CEO's office or whilst they're in a meeting on a different floor to demand they buy her a dog, that takes an extremely large clitoris. That is like clitoris, titanium clitoris to the max. You know, I would say balls, but I'm currently living in the plane of existence that there is two genders. I know. I know. I know. It's 2024. That is a horrific, bigoted thing to say, but we are where we are. That is some serious clit energy going on there. So that's you gotta give some credit. Walking into a CEO's office after working there barely 3 weeks to demand a dog. That's that's a bold move. Bold people make bold moves. She didn't get the dog, so she moved on. Didn't just she didn't get the dog, didn't turn up to work anymore. She's right, on to the next company. She just wants a dog. She just wants a free dog. Just adopt a dog. I don't know. I don't know. Is there a more convenient way of sorting that without the company having to buy you a dog? I don't know. Yeah, I've had people before ask for things, or I've never been in a position of proper management. Okay, so I've never actually had to manage people fully. I've trained some people, but that's not really management. That's basically most of the time I've done that. It's training people who are going to replace you. That's the most time I've done that, basically, which is when I've had any authority over anyone. But I have heard of people asking for things that are just completely ridiculous and just not workable. When I was at, I can't remember if it was, I heard of someone when I was at Hughes. I heard of someone wanting to not be part of like a cleaning rota or have to do stock takes. Oh my god, when I was at Hughes, stock takes were a fucking joke, right? So this was 2016, 2017, right? And stock taking, it was not digital, right? We didn't have scanners and go around and scan shit like we had at Tesco's where I worked before. I understand Tesco's are a much bigger company, but fuck me, right? So what we'd do is we'd have a stock take on this absolute clapped out old piece of shit system that functionally was really cool. Like you could get to it was once you learn how to use it, and it was an absolute piss take trying to learn how to use it. It was really handy. It was very useful, right? You could see stock at other stores, you could see stock at distribution centers. with suppliers and all that sort of stuff. And you could do that from just sat at the computer in the one shop that you're working at, right? So you had a stock level for your store of every single item in the shop. I'm talking batteries, I'm talking cables, I'm talking like accessories that no one fucking buys, like overpriced wireless mouses and fucking power packs and shit. They were all listed on this system, like individual codes, product codes with the quantity that we should currently have in stock. Now, the way that we checked stock as a shop, we all banded together one day, and it had to be done like I think it. I want to say every 6 months, might have been every year. I can't remember. It felt like an that stock take day was a piss take, right? You divvy out between you. Most, I think, when I was working at my local shop, we had sections. So some people would be working predominantly on like the white goods area, like the cookers, the freezers, the fridges, all that sort of shit, washing machines. You have people on brown goods. I only found out they were called brown goods because of the color fucking boxes that they come in, which was TVs, radios, that sort of stuff. You had people on SDAs, which was small domestic appliances like hoovers, toasters, all that shit, and you had like accessories. So you divvy out between the teams who was doing what. If you got accessories, honestly, that I my heart would go out to them. I got it once and I wanted to throw myself off the second floor of the building. It's such a just boring, boring task. It is as manual as it gets, right? You go to the shelf where the product code is. You look at the ticket to make sure the product code matches what you see in front of you. Then you count the stock, compare it to the receipt that you have in front of you that should tell you how many of that thing we have. And then you record in real time on a bit of paper against that item how much we have. Then you give all that in to the warehouse manager, I think we gave it to, and then he'd input it on the system and obviously um, double check for discrepancies, which there always was because there's all like a pack of batteries has gone missing, and we're like, where the fuck's the batteries gone? Turns out someone had used the batteries in a fucking remote for a TV and never told anyone. And that's how the fucking snowball starts. Then you find out fucking laptops are missing and stuff, and it gets into a little bit of a different discussion. But anyway, that is I've heard people not wanting to be part of that, which is nowhere near the level of asking for a dog. But even to me, that's unacceptable. Like, you're in the fucking trenches with us, son. You're doing it. It was a nightmare, though. It was a nightmare. I pray for anyone who works at Hughes still. I hope they've got a different way of doing stock taking for you because it was a nightmare. And I only worked there for a year. There are people who've been working there for 30 plus years. So yeah, it's not a great one. Not a great one. Just didn't get the dog though. Didn't get the dog. Employee needed to be told to stop meowing. This is straight away a great one. Former HR here. Is there's a lot of HR in this? I'm gonna a lot of HR. Oh, it makes sense. I did think I didn't read the top of the fucking thing properly. Is 23 of the weirdest, most hilarious stories from people who work in HR. So there's going to be a lot of HR love or hate in this one. Depends how you sit on that fence, I guess. Former HR here. A woman once complained that someone in her department kept meowing and it was getting on her nerves. I asked the meowing woman to come to my office. I said, "You're not in trouble, but apparently you keep meowing." And an employee asked us to address it with you. Her response, her response, "This is America. I have freedom of speech. And what happens if she sees a cat in a commercial and that cat meows? Does she get mad at that cat? To which I replied, well, no, because it's a cat. It's expected to meow. This went on for some time until she agreed to stop meowing. That was no reason for there was no reason for the meowing. She was just meowing. Yeah, there's got to be a mental disorder in there somewhere. And no hate. I'm just saying that. Do you meow for no reason? I understand, like you do it like as a joke, but if it wasn't a joke and she was just doing it just for the sake of doing it, I don't know. I'm no, I'm no therapist. You know, I'm no educated man on how the brain works, but I would say that's a broken brain. That's a case of broken brainies. You know, just meow for no reason. But to come out with "This is America" is the most American thing you could say. You know, if someone doesn't like what you're doing, just saying the words "This is America" sets the tone for the entire conversation from that point forward. You know, just shooting a gun in the street, and it's like, whoa, what, what the fuck are you doing? What, you can't be just unloading clips of ammunition into the air. Turn around and just go, "This is America, man. This is America. Protect the second." Do you know what I mean? That's just how it is. You say the words "This is America," there's a 50-50 chance you're probably legally in the right. I don't know. But yeah, need to don't meow. All right. Um, I don't know. My brain has just gone to that story we talked about probably about a month or so ago about the college, was it college student or the high school student? I can't remember. There was anyway fairly local to me in Jordan. There is either a college or a high school that has probably somewhat begrudgingly um, allowed a student to act as a cat because they think they're a cat. This is America, but it's not America. This is the UK, and we allow that shit. We allow it. It's official. Okay, number 4. Candidate forgot dress code still apply for Skype interviews. What? Candidate forgot dress codes still apply for Skype interviews. That doesn't really make sense in my mind, but we'll carry on. One of the candidates I was interviewing via Skype, I gotta say, right, I've done one job interview via Zoom or Skype. They are fucking awful. Right, you get no feel at all for what the sort of conversation is like. You don't really see people's body language properly. You don't, because there's a slight delay as well. You'll tell a joke maybe and it doesn't land, and you think it doesn't land, so you try and move on, then they laugh, and it's you know what I mean? I'm not saying, their internet might be shit or it might be mine. I don't know. But it's such a shite version of doing an interview. I understand it's probably unavoidable if you live like halfway across the country. But if you're within like 20, 30 minutes, just do it in person, honestly. Anyway, one of the candidates I was interviewing via Skype, one answered the phone while in his boxers and a tank top, then stood up to grab his blazer that was probably about 3 feet away. I had to see him in his stretched out boxers. Is this the same person? Right. So, number one, they did that. And number two, had a porn site up and open during a shared screen trial to see how well he can use the digital classroom. I had to remind him I can see his screen. He goes, "Oh, yeah, sorry." Next, instead of just closing it from the corner of his partially hidden window, he clicks open the window in full view, then closes it. That was nice. At least you got an inside view of, well, whatever he was watching. You kind of get to judge his critique his porn choice. his collection, or maybe his, I don't know, just overall taste. No, what I'm saying is, you see some weird categories, you know, bear hentai, that sort of, what's it called, the technical shit. I don't get it. I don't get it. Hentai, I can see, I can understand why people might like it, but the tentacle stuff, nah, I don't get it. Honestly, shoving calamari up your vag is really, really not, in my mind, a great use of tentacles. But anyway, is what it is. Stay hydrated, everyone. You know, your salt and pepper calamari could, dry you out. Do you know what I mean? Oh god. But yeah, that's different level. That had a porn site up during a shared screen trial. He didn't even think about getting rid of it. One that tells me they're probably not great at using technology, bar having access and understanding how to access porn on their computer or laptop. And two, it also tells me they have fucking no idea how to close windows. They're always those people, and this is a fantastic, fantastic example of this. I don't know how old this person was. They might be young, but old people always have to maximize the window to close it. I've I see it so often. I see it so often. Like, click on the X if you want the window to close, but they don't do that because it's not the same, because it's not the entire size of the screen they're looking on. They can't find the X because it's not directly in the corner of the screen. So they maximize it and then close it. So I will make the educated guess that this particular person, was older. Maybe wrong, because I did hear of this is a sad story, really. It is sad, really, from my point of view. There's, I can't remember his name. There's loads of shorts. He's like, I think he used to be a game developer, or still is, and he talked about how they had a game show, or they did like a game demo at a conference, maybe like E3 when that was still going. And he had a bunch of younger people come up to the booth. They had like a computer um, running, like two or three of computers running the game, and they had like a keyboard and mouse on one of them that you could play with, or they had a like a gamepad, like a controller. And he said that the younger generation moved the keyboard and the mouse out the way and tried to play the game by touching the screen. And that just fucking that made me sad. That's the first thing that the younger generation think of when talking about games, or thinking about games, or playing games. It's like, how do I manipulate the screen? Can I touch it? It's almost like, I don't know. It's almost child. I mean, some people will call them children, but it's almost like childlike. You get like a toy where you have to fit blocks into a certain shape, and they'll go through. It's almost like that inherent need to pick something up and touch it is not really grown out of them. Again, I don't know anything. I'm not an educated person on child studies or how the brain works. I'm just saying that's sad. In my opinion, that's sad. But yeah, that's some next level shit. And if they are in any way gonna be teaching, as it says there, digital, using the digital classroom as like a part of the interview process for this particular role. I would like to think that just having porn on your computer open is already a cause for concern. Just to, if they're not hiding porn from the very person who's possibly responsible for them getting the job or not, makes the decision, then I don't know really where else you can go with that. I did, just moving on to a different topic. Wasn't meant to talk about this earlier, but I completely forgot. I did hear of a conspiracy theory, and obviously, this being APMA, pretty much the birthplace of the podcast was us just talking about conspiracies. So fuck it. Here's another conspiracy for you, and it's linked to jobs. Right. So I'm sure many of you out there have experienced this, or maybe it's just me and I'm in a bubble. Right. So I heard a conspiracy theory. I think it was like a YouTube short, or I can't remember what creator it was. It was probably just an AI fucking generated video. But anyway, so has anyone applied for a shit ton of jobs? Right. Because I have, in the, I would say, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've applied for probably over 100 jobs. And I would say I have not got a reply from over 60 to 70% of those jobs. Like, not even, we're not going to interview. I've had people tell me constructive criticism as to why I didn't get the job. I've gone to interviews and not got jobs. I've gone um, to in-person interviews and not got the jobs very rarely. We're talking like under 5 in the last 4 or 5 years. Um, but I would say a good 60 to 70%, maybe even slightly more. I've not even heard a fucking peep from them. Some of them I haven't even had confirmation that my CV or my application has gone through, right? And the conspiracy theory goes that there's a lot of jobs that are posted on websites like Indeed or fucking Job Library or insert different bullshit name for a job marketplace here. Um, they put these jobs up, they make the pay relatively attractive so people will apply for it. And all they do is just farm your data and your information and then sell it. And I was like, that makes so much fucking sense. Like, I have to give my email to them. I give them my phone number, my address, my name. Some of them have even asked for things like my national insurance number to prove that, you know, I have residency or have the right to work in the UK. Like, that makes so much sense. So much sense. So that's it. A lot of these people are posting jobs, not replying to anyone, taking the data and selling it. I've got no proof of that, by the way. It's just a conspiracy theory, but it makes sense in my mind. It makes sense in my mind. So I just put my watch on charge. I think the battery's fucked because I think it was pretty sure it was fully charged like 2 days ago. Now it's under 20%. Let's go. Yeah, so that's my conspiracy. It's not mine. I didn't come up with it, but it makes sense to me, and I wouldn't put it past this current way of just absolutely skinning you alive for your data. Okay. Employee thought he would get paid to sleep during work hours. Now, I've got a little bit of a story about this myself, but it might be incriminating. Maybe I won't tell it. Hi, I'm not in HR. What are you doing on this thread then? But I appreciate it because we don't want everyone from HR. Otherwise, this would be a fucking snore fest. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, if you work in HR, you're lively. I'm sure you are. Life of the party. Hi, I'm not in HR, but my mum has been for quite a while. A few years ago, when my mum worked at an automotive plant, my mum had an issue with an employee who would clock in on time and then disappear. She asked another of the floor employees if they had seen him and was told he's in the parking lot. So my mum and one other co-workers went out to the parking lot and found the employee asleep in his car. Apparently, he'd been clocking in and immediately going out to his car for another hour or so of sleep for 2 weeks. I can't remember why it took so long for HR to find out. He didn't see a problem with it if he clocked in on time and was on company grounds. Needless to say, they fired him, but I'm sure he was fine with it since he could catch up on sleep now that he didn't have a pesky job getting in the way. I was a bit fucking patronised at the end, yeah? Getting a bit sarky. I rate it. Good. Um, Now I never did this. I never did this, right? I never clocked in and then went to sleep. But when I worked at Tesco, right, there were times where I really couldn't be fucked. So I would go I would go I worked on the dairy, like I think the aisles that I was responsible for working on were dairy, which was obviously milk, cheese, cream, yogurts, all that sort of stuff. Then we had orange juice, ready cooked meats, sandwich fillers, and then there was also like ready meals, that sort of stuff, pies, chilled pizzas. All that sort of stuff, and there was promotional ends, and then sometimes I'd also help out on like the fresh meat because they were right next to each other. And there were some times where I just really couldn't be fucked, and I must say, most of the times was where I was working. This would have been like Christmas, Easter, not so much Halloween, but Christmas, Easter, New Year, around there, those times were shit, especially for dairy, because everyone wants fucking dairy at Christmas. Like everyone wants cream on the 24th of fucking December. Everyone wants milk at 24th of December. You know, I don't understand why people think that going into a shop on the 24th that closes the very next day is going to have an abundance of stuff that goes out of date within a few days. But anyway, when it got really shit and like really busy and people were pissing me off because customers, for the large part, make your job incredibly difficult. Just unfortunately for existing. And that is the unfortunate truth. But it's a complete paradox because if the customers didn't exist, you wouldn't have the job. So Christmas, Easter, New Year were terrible. Like, especially for dairy. Other places in the shop had it probably much worse or maybe like at the same level. Checkouts would have been nasty back then because people hate waiting. People hate waiting for shit. But I will never forget. Um, I had someone in a wheelchair who was quite rude. I'd say very snappy from the get go. I don't even know if this was around Christmas, but I remember helping out on the frozen section. I wouldn't do it very often, but if I was needed, I like doing the frozen section because me being the lazy bastard I was, and to a certain extent still am, you didn't have to really date rotate that much on Frozen. I mean, you were supposed to, but you didn't have to because you know everything's got a long date on it because it's Frozen. Whereas on Dairy, you did have to do a lot of date rotation. So going on Frozen, I could just lob shit in a freezer and I wouldn't have to date rotate it that much. Um, but I remember this woman came up. It was a busy Saturday. I think it would have been nearer one of the holidays that I just mentioned. And I was busy. I had like 3 cages on the shop floor trying to fill the freezers quicker than people were taking shit out. And she asked for a specific vegan option, might have been a sausage, like a pack of sausages or something, vegan sausages. Anyway, we didn't have it. We didn't have it. Um, she thought that was outrageous that we didn't stock it, and I said, "Oh, I did the obligatory. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have it in stock. I can ask someone if we're gonna get it in stock, or we might get it in stock soon, or whether we're just waiting for a batch to come in." And she was basically saying we should have it here now, and I was like, "Unfortunately, that paradigm doesn't exist. Like, just because you say we should have it here now doesn't mean we should have it here now." This is what I'm thinking. Obviously, I'm not saying that because have some semblance of customer service in me still at this point. This was late on into my stint at Tesco's as well. Like, I started at 2012 and I was there until late 2016. So this would have been probably, I'm guessing, either Christmas period 2015 or Easter period of 2016. Because those were the worst for me personally. Um, she was insistent that she wanted to speak to a manager about it. She thought it was disgusting that we didn't stock this item. She never said the words, "This is like discriminatory against me." Um, but that's the very much the vibe that I was getting, and I felt like that was where it was going to lead to. And I couldn't be fucked. I really couldn't be fucked. Like, I said to myself, I'm now gonna have to take myself away from the shop floor and go and find a manager who A will want to deal with this and two will know all the answers to the questions that I already know they don't know the answers to. So I got up to the leader of the frozen section or the manager of the frozen section. He said, I don't fucking know. Predictably, you know, I don't hold it against him because why the fuck would he know if we don't do a particular fucking version of a vegan sausage pack? You know, he doesn't, he's not there to know all the fucking options that we could possibly offer. Um, so in the end, I get another manager to come down and speak to her. Uh, she kicks off again. And I'm just like, I said to myself, I'm not going to do this quickly. So I didn't. I purposely went and stood in the freezer just to, chill out. That was a bad joke, but I did actually. I was quite warm. Um, and I always like going in the freezer, and this is where I think I am slightly autistic, right? I used to stand in the freezer and then inhale through my nose, and if you're in there for like longer than 30 seconds, you can actually feel your hairs inside your nose start to harden, and I like the feeling of it. I know, psycho, but yeah, I went and stood in the chiller for about 5 minutes after she asked me to go and get a manager, and then I said to myself, "Right, 5 minutes is gone. I'll go and get a manager." But whenever someone was being a dick to me, I never, ever, ever responded by speed is the fucking option. I mean, look at me, I ain't gonna be speedy anyway. So whenever someone's a dick to you, do not do it quickly. A, because you'll make mistakes. Two, because you'll look flustered in front of them. And a lot of the time, all they want is to make someone feel small or to make someone feel bad, right? So do it slowly, do it with a margin of respect, but don't do it fast. So that every time anyone gave me shit, it took twice as long than it would have done if they just asked me nicely. And sometimes I'd purposely just go and stand in the chiller or the freezer. Just like fold my arms, just look around, maybe sing a song to myself, like, mumble along. Um, did have a good friend there who sometimes tried some of the product. Obviously won't name them, but they did love the spray cream. The spray cream was their vice there, I'll tell you. But anyway, that was my story of my lesson to you in retail someone's an arsehole to you for and unwarranted. If you give it to them straight away and they're giving it to you back, fair enough. But if you want to keep you cool or trying to keep you cool, do it slow and do it with some form of respect. Don't like do it slow and then call them a cunt, because then that kind of completely negates the whole purpose of you doing it slow. If you're just gonna go at them straight away. But yeah, do it slow and do it with some respect, because they'll get even more pissed off. And when they see that you're not responding to them getting pissed off in the way that they want you to, quite a lot of the time, they just back down. You know, if you have a go at them, they'll also back down. But there's a good chance they're probably going to complain about you, and you'll probably get in trouble. But anyway, that's my story. Um, hasn't got anything to do with sleeping at work, but yeah, there is another one. There is another one. I never did this myself. I never did this myself. Just on the record, right? When I worked at Network Rail, my first job at Network Rail was crossing keeper. Now, it was fairly local to me. It was kind of halfway in between Norwich. So from here to halfway to Norwich, that was like my work destination. Crossing keeper, you just looked after a crossing. The crossing I was at was next to a fairly small station. Had like a little hut thing you could stay in. You saw the timetable. It had like a one screen computer with the timetable on it. Now you could go on things there. You weren't just locked out of everything. You weren't like you'd only see the timetable. So you had other access to, not YouTube, but there are other ways you could get around it. You know what I mean? So when a train comes, you get an alarm go off in your hut. You go out, you swing the gates to block off the traffic, and then you pull a signal to tell the train driver that you've done everything necessary and it's okay for them to come in to the station at a normal speed. Well, at the speed they'd normally go into a station at, which is pretty fucking slow because they're not mental. Uh, Now, important to say that the service where I lived only ran till about 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock at the most. And if you're on a night shift, you start at like 7, and then trains stopped at like 12, and then only started back up again at about 6:30 in the morning. And you left at 7. You were doing a 12-hour shift. It was like 7 till 7. So I heard of some crossing keepers, not myself. Important to note, not myself, would bring some additional seating to perhaps have a nap in between where trains weren't running. Now, there were times where other trains, like maintenance trains and, you know, work in terms of like track work, would go on whilst you were there outside of the timetable hours. So there's a couple of times that I was there where a track cleaning train came, basically just cleaned all the fucking leaves off the track. Because it's quite a risk when you're braking in a train. If you got leaves on the track, they have no friction, so you just slide on these leaves. So that was the reason they had that. But they obviously had to operate outside of the train timetable to not cause disruption. So there were some times where some of the crossing keepers would have been disturbed because they'd have to do the same thing at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning when the track cleaning trains or maintenance team were coming by. But yeah, that was a good job. I enjoyed that. Very good. Then I became a signaller and didn't enjoy it as much. Crossing keeper was great. Was great. I really enjoyed that. Anyway, that was not my experience. sleeping at work. Definitely not. Napping, never sleeping. It wasn't me. Anyway, let's do one final story. Let's go absolutely hell for leather on this last one. So, two employees with the same name basically broke the system. This sounds so much. This is such a HR thing to have to deal with. Right. I used to work in HR at a large corporation. There was a big HR back office team doing a lot of processing and data entry, including employees' bank info for their salary. It just so happened that on the same day, two employees with the same name started and a huge clusterfuck ensued. First, the banking information was entered for the wrong person. One of them realized and had it corrected, but the other wasn't fixed. So both salaries went to one person. Fucking balling. You're absolutely balling. The unpaid guy started refusing to come to work, but payroll said that their payment cleared and the account was in his name. So he was terminated for refusing to come to work. He kept calling and HR support team kept misidentifying him as the other guy who was still working for us. So when they raised a ticket to get his bank information changed, they changed it to the info of the wrong guy. Fuck me. So now the guy who doesn't work for us is getting paid the salary of a guy who does. When this was finally worked out, the first guy was given his job back, but on his first day back, security misidentified him and issued him a badge for the other employee. So now he was clocking hours for the other guy and not getting fuck off. This ain't real. Because he never clocked in for himself. It took about 3 months for us all to be worked out. Moral of the story is use a fucking email address to identify people. Fuck it hell. They've put an edit here as well. Yes, the employees had unique IDs. The problem was people were searching for them by name and tunnel visioning on the first result. Also, I was suggesting that email can be used to identify people face to face or over the phone. I wasn't suggesting it should be used as their primary key in a database. That is amazing. That's what like one of those situations where every step in the process leads to a worse outcome and the resolution attempt becomes the entire reason that the clusterfuck gets worse. That's fucking insane. Oh dear. Oh Jesus Christ. Um, I got a very quick story on pay, right? So there's been a boss I've worked for before who has not paid the staff on time, um, and very quickly. They're meant to pay us on like a Friday, doesn't come through. So Saturday doesn't come through. Sunday, that's not happening anyway. Monday doesn't come through. Tuesday, so I guess started Wednesday of the following week. Basically, like another half week to close enough a week of work without being paid for the previous month. And I did kind of at one point snap and said, "Are we getting paid for this last month's work that we're done?" And the boss at the time turned around and said these words to me, right, verbatim. I'll remember them until I die, hopefully. "Oh, what, do you need the money?" That's what he said. That's what he said. "Oh, what, do you need the money?" Yeah, I wasn't doing this as a charity gig, mate. If it was you phone was you think this is the Red Cross or something? British Heart Foundation. Fucking break. Fucking what's another fucking Samaritans? I was trying to think of another fucking charity. Oh dear. Fucking hell. But yeah, just don't take shit, all right? If you meant to get paid, fucking log it and be like, look, go fuck yourself. Give me the money. Just go full fucking gangster. No, in all seriousness, just record what was meant to be happening. And if you can, take it to HR. That doesn't work, does it? HR aren't there for you. They're there for the company. Just remember that. Oh dear. Well, thanks everyone for watching and listening. I appreciate your support and your patience to a certain degree, because there's probably a lot of people out there who are like, "Oh, I'll stick this on, see what it's like." And then if you really get into it, I'm glad. I'm good. I feel good about it. Thank you for joining me on this episode. And we'll see you in the next one. Up the APMA. Bye bye for now.